Hi, I'm Misty with Misty Puffer Wellness Coaching, and I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about disappointment. I had a disappointment this week. I'm sure you've had many disappointments in your life, and I thought, well, it might be a good opportunity to talk about some how we deal with disappointment and how maybe if God has a different plan in mind. So this week I've been studying in Deuteronomy about Moses, and I have this passage in Deuteronomy chapter 3 that brings my disappointment um, into a different perspective. So, this is when they're getting ready. Israel has left Egypt 40 years ago, and they're getting ready to enter the promised land. And Moses is pleading with God in Deuteronomy chapter 3, verses 23 through 29. He says this. And I pleaded with the Lord at that time, saying, O Lord, you have only begun to show your servant your greatness and your mighty hands. For what God is there in heaven or on earth who can do such works and mighty acts as yours? Please let me go over and see the good land and beyond the Jordan and the hill country in Lebanon. But the Lord was angry with me because of you and would not listen to me. And the Lord said to me, Enough from you. Do not speak to me of this matter again. Go up to the top of Pisgah and lift up your eyes westward and northward and southward and eastward and look at it with your eyes. For you shall not go over this Jordan. But charge Joshua and encourage and strengthen him, for he shall go over at the head of this people, and he shall put them in possession of the land and that you shall see. So he remained in the valley opposite Beth Peor. So when Moses was trying to ask God to do something for him, that he wanted to see the promised land so badly, God says no and don't ask again. And I think about something that happened this week, and it was God saying no. It was something that I really didn't want to do anyway, but it was just because, you thought you were going to be a part of something and then it didn't happen. So you get your feelings all in a wad, you know how that goes. And I was just thinking about it spiritually today. It's not something that God has for me, you know, and it may not be what God has for you either. So when we look at Moses and we look at this occurrence with God, and he's asking God to let him go over, Moses was so humble, he was so faithful, and he had a moment of pride and fierce anger against the people, and he struck a rock instead of speaking to it like God told him to. And even though he'd been carefully listening to God and obeying God, he had that moment of rebellion. And we all do that, don't we? So I sit here and I'm a little bit stunned as I think about God's words to Moses. And I think about how many times I reared up in pride and led another astray. Even though I'm forgiven, I may never see in this natural world something I long for with all my heart. In leadership, there's another lesson here. Leadership in God's sanctuary is serious business. And all who teach are held at a higher standard, and that's in James chapter 3, verse 1. When I look back on Moses' situation, I feel sorry for him. But at the same time, I realize he's soon headed to a new home, an eternal home. The splendor and full majesty of the presence of God will be his ultimate promised land. Things in life are not fair, and teaching myself and my children to understand that from the very beginning helps them adjust and become more resilient. Although I may never fully understand why certain things happen, I'm aware we have a Creator who loves us and has a plan for us in this life and the life to come. We make decisions every single day that have long-term consequences for our relationships and our health. And I pray for wisdom to keep my focus on the long-term marathon of life rather than the short sprint that is the instant gratification. May the draw of lasting friendships outweigh being right and stating my opinion over every single difficult issue. May I ask for foresight of choosing better food options and activities to keep my body strong, rather than health stealing, inflammation causing thieves of laziness, sugar, and ultra processed food that appease that instant gratification. What about you? Are you feeling it too? What decision do you want to make today that will have lasting consequences for years to come? And how can I pray for you to help you get there? The truth today is that Moses asked God repeatedly to see the promised land, and God said no. The truth for me is he said no to me too, and that's okay. I know that he has a different plan. I know that my thoughts are not his thoughts, and his ways are not my ways all the time, and he's trying to point me back to him, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing when he wakes us up, right? Thanks for being with me today. I pray you have a great weekend. God bless.